Welcome to the Awesome Games Done Quick 2025 video submission of mine for the one rap category of Frogger for the Game Boy Color. This category is a part of a Game Boy Color port of the original arcade iteration, which was released before Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. For those of you who are watching this video, I'll be including a few different runs that were done in the past year of 2024 to demonstrate what the run looks like at various different levels of play. This may include runs which include well-executed levels in addition to levels that may have not been as well executed as they could be. That way you can see what the run looks like at various different scales and times of the time estimate for which I have provided in the submission. I'm also going to be including runs that include commentary from one of my most recently self-run speedrun marathons, Glass's Summer Games Speedrun Saga 2024, in addition to runs that may have commentary overdubbed in to show what commentary may look like in each of the levels of the game, and the possible different types of commentary that may be included throughout the run. Thank you for your consideration. Okay, I got it to work. Okay, now we gotta hope it stays that way on my end. Not that it matters, but I like having that input, especially for Frogger. So as soon as I press one player, we'll get the run started. No further delay. Apologies for technical difficulties. I'll just have to live with whatever happens next if it goes away again for some reason. We'll get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, well, I'm gonna have to live without it. I'm also gonna have to adjust my expectations for this particular style of arcade, where everything is a lot smaller, including the hitboxes. It's really weird. The arcade version of this game is just a tiny bit strange. I don't really know exactly how to put it, but if you don't remember the routing, it can get really kind of crazy. The routing for this is definitely like a memory sort of thing. It's easy to forget. I end up relearning it every February, unlike Frogger 2, where I just kind of, the levels are memorable enough, I know exactly what I'm doing as it is. That'll work for me. So one rap in this game, which it will make very clear, is considered 8 levels, so we are going to make it our goal to get to that point. T-Rex is going to make it difficult. It's a crocodile, but it looks a lot more like a T-Rex. Should be able to... There we go. Got through it, no problem there. So now the cars are zipping a lot faster through here. In the original arcade versions of Frogger, there was a lot more desync between the movement of everything, whereas it's more or less the cars and less so everything else in the first couple of levels. Like the desync that happens in the water section is a lot slower. It's much more so the Bonneville Flats race cars that you have to kind of worry about here. That's kind of a risky go for it. And on all the even levels, from what I can tell, the crocodiles will show up in the, I call them the goalposts, or so to speak. There we go. That went pretty decently. So that sound there was the sound of me getting an extra life. We've only lost one so far. They're very easy to lose in the last few levels. Unlike the original Frogger, which just becomes faster and faster and more complex, this game just resets the patterns every 8 levels. It'll go back to the original style with a few little extra twists and turns. Also, fun fact, as you can see, I was able to land on the snake. So far, not much to say. I'm just kind of playing a combination of like fast, but also just a little bit of speed there in the confluence. Ooh, took some risk there. I definitely got properly punished for not minding myself. That last one, I have less understanding for. Yeah, we're in a little trouble on this level. Early on is not great. Okay. A little bit of futzing around on that one. Ooh, I'm getting a little too reckless. So I went from 4 lives to 0. We are going to get one of the much tougher ones taken care of straight away. Let's see. Made that work just fine. In comparison to the Genesis version, kind of the spacing is a little bit more clear, a bit easier to understand here, and it does make it just slightly easier to deal with. You can very easily make your way through those vehicles, but it's not something I personally advise. Got one more goal. I can probably just wait on this log and I'll be okay. Yeah, we're gonna be a-okay here. But after this, it's just kind of like difficulty kind of stays the same. Now you're gonna notice snakes on the log. Perfectly normal day for Frogger. One thing I have to be very mindful of is these longer logs do have the luxury of, having access to more space, but there's also snakes on them, so, that in itself is going to provide some additional danger. I'm actually going to purposely ride this one out a little bit longer. So now we got the simplest one and the hardest one, which gives us some tough choices. And we really, unfortunately, don't have much of a choice. We're saving the worst for last. So we'll see how that goes. I could game over, and I did account some of my wait time for that. Perfect timing. About as perfect as you could ask for. It doesn't get more perfect than that, and frankly, it doesn't get easier than that, too. Yeah. Alright. So now we have an extra life thanks to having gathered up 10,000 points. That's the amount that it takes to gather them up. They don't take as much time in later versions of this game, so that's good. much more dangerous to try to go for certain things as opposed to others. I just have no volume here anymore. Now we got the worst one to take care of at the very end. I don't have much to say here other than it's just going to be what it is, and we'll see if I get some cooperative patterns or if I'm going to have to wade through the Crocodile and Snake Express for these next few. Looks like I had a chance, but I kind of had to play it a little bit safe here. Will I get a chance here? Absolutely. One last level to go. Never had to do it without any sound, so this is going to be incredibly interesting. Got close to taking care of the most difficult one right away, which would have been great, but Crocodile was traveling a little bit too fast. You can see instead of there being one snake, there's two, which makes this one of the most daunting stretches to make it through. And I got very close to falling into the water on that particular area. 3 more left. Again, you can touch the bodies of the snakes, but it is definitely not advised to do so. We're going to end up getting the inside ones yet again. Saving the most complex setup for last. We'll see how I handle that. I got too preoccupied with the snakes, and now I've only got one chance left to make this right. Kind of had to think outside the box there. Didn't have much of a choice. It just kind of was what it was. Okay, I'm gonna risk it and see if we can get any crocodiles here. Beautiful. We still might not get this, but I've made it as easy as I possibly can for the last one. Okay. If I do make it, time is going to be when I see the screen say you've completed one wrap, which I think is definitely going to happen. It most certainly will. There we go. I can't believe we did it. And time. So there you go, folks. One wrap speedrun completed. Time of 11:10, which is pretty decent. It's really easy to lose runs like these. The way I count for things is that you have to just you would normally have to play it a little bit safer, and that kind of ends up becoming the memo for the shorter for the final 3 levels of the game. And now I'm just kind of doing a bit of a high score exhibition because I can. As you notice, like I said before, there's a little bit of some extra bells and whistles for the levels from here on forward. You are able to go to the first level, but it's got 2 snakes on the road side and then a snake on the log, which is a fun time. We'll see how high I can go in the score. I have been able to get as many as... that's the end. That is most certainly the end right there. Okay, final score being 29,090. 29,090. So, very quick, but that was Frogger for the Game Boy Color. My best score is, I believe it's around 50,000. And it maxes out at 99,990, so it doesn't go any higher than that. And yeah, first run done really quick, really fast. Not too much to say. I'm happy I completed it on the first try, which most certainly shows that it can be done. No doubt about that. With that, folks, I am going to be moving on to Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color. That's coming up next. I'm just going to enter the stuff for this particular game, and then we'll get rolling with that next. For consideration of Awesome Games Done Quick 2025, this is a submission of the One Wrap category for the Frogger 1 Game Boy Color Speedrun. One Wrap is pretty fast, but it's also an extremely risky category, and so you have to sort of decide between taking some risky lateral movements or just kind of going straight for the jugular and taking even riskier vertical movements. In the classic arcade format, you will find yourself making quick switches of options if you feel like something you were going for was too risky. And I'll kind of just go over the basics as I run through the game. Giving myself a bit of a countdown. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. So it's pretty much like what you would expect as far as the classic formula goes. You want to be able to just kind of quickly navigate your way through. On the first few levels, it's fastest to just kind of go from left to right, simply because there is a linear pattern that allows you to do as such. There may be slight modifications where we will go for the road of least resistance, in which case I'm just going to kind of very quickly, swallow up a few of these areas, just slightly out of order. That's the first level. Very quick, not much to say about it. Again, similar concept here, still pretty linear, with just a little bit of a difference of the other pattern that we'd like to go for, which in this instance, there's our first death. We expected that to happen at some point. Frogger's a game that's very infamous for just lots and lots of deaths, but it does give me the chance to discuss that, this is the other pattern, and it's slightly safer than the left to right, which is, of course, going for a bit of a pyramid pattern, where you go, left to right, zigzag back and forth, in a way that you can kind of very quickly take on multiple different gems, multiple different exits at once. We'll see if I can get a good pattern here. We'll go for the hardest one right away. I'm going to lose a little time as a result, but that's fine. We can kind of just carefully make sure that we have a surplus of lives going into the ladder section, because we will need a good number of them. So that's the second level. Again, pretty much the same as the last level. We're going to try to zigzag it as much as possible. I'm going to be kind of zigzagging most of the time, right, left, and we'll see if it works out. Sometimes I end up just kind of doing a complete zigzag, in which case that's what I did here. In the moment, it felt like a safer pattern, and as I play the levels each time, things like crocodile arms, you can sometimes play a bit of a role in how I do it. Another thing that could play a role if I start running low on lives is just like going for stuff like extra points, and that you can see, for example, here, pretty well incentivized in this section. And I was able to collect an extra life as a result of that. I may opt to go in a slightly different direction now. Zigzags aren't really going to be that beneficial. You may have noticed the croc was almost fully there, but because it was not entirely in the entrance area, we were able to get the exit we were looking for. It's only if the crocodile's head is entirely immersed in the area. it's just going to be easiest to take this route first, and then I'm going to kind of just see if I can, stand on the snake just a little bit. We may be in a less than convenient place. Let's see. We may end up having to wait a little bit. Crocodile is going to be trolling us just a tiny bit here. No big deal. We just have a bit of waiting time to go. And that's that one. All taken care of. Deal. Alright. I just kind of drew a straight path, not knowing if it was going to work. Hitboxes in here can be just a little bit unpredictable. Generally, when playing through the arcade versions of Frogger, the farthest left exits are considered to be the most difficult, with the ones, to the right being a little bit easier as you go. So, if we have to play it safe, that's kind of the pattern we'll end up taking, and we'll just roll with whatever is in front of us. As of right now, we're doing pretty decently. Bit of, time being bled here and there, but that is just because we're very cognizant of how many lives we have remaining. It's very easy to just kind of drop them like flies if you start getting too reckless. I don't have much to say currently, as I'm just kind of in a waiting pattern. I could have decided to go for that log right there, but that does go into topic about another risk that you can run, which is that sometimes you will just get pushed off the side. We didn't have to worry about it that time, mostly because we were just kind of already, far to the left side to begin with, but it's just not worth the risk. Those snakes that you see there, you do not want to be in contact with the heads, but you can stand on top of the body. That's considered safe, less risky if you know the exact positions to go for. Now we're kind of getting an in-between sort of pattern. Let's see. I may wind up having some waiting to do. Actually, we're okay. We are okay, and I'm going to guess that the log will arrive just in time. And if it doesn't, well, we're just going to go to the very right side instead. And one more to go. I saved the most difficult one for last. We'll see if that backfires on me. This is kind of the name of the game. Because if you lose a life, the entire run is just gone. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So that's that level done. We got 2 more left to do. And these are where things get very scary, because everything is a lot less measured compared to the previous levels. Those first 3 levels, we have some clearly defined routes and backup strats available. With these, it is very easy to get into panic mode and start messing up everything very quickly. But right now, I'm doing pretty all right. I can actually probably start hightailing it just a little bit. That was a very nice backup method. We'll see if I can keep this going. Level 8 is a big run killer. This can also be a big run killer if you start playing too reckless. I'm going to be waiting to see if I get a log to bail me out. Nope, it's going to be a crocodile. And so we're just going to go to the other side. That's sort of my philosophy, because there is a very good chance you'll just be pushed into the water if you wait it out too long. Let's see if this will work out. Very close. I had to go for it at least once, because we're just going to keep on losing more time. And that can be quite bad. This is the I'll give it the proper position this time. We got one on this level 2. Good. And we'll see how it goes. Now everything is moving very fast. There's multiple snakes, and you really want to carefully measure out all your movements. Not like let your head grow too big for your, your ambitions. Not let your ambitions get too big for your head. It is very easy to get into this mindset that you'll be able to just, get yourself out of a jam. I took on one of the most difficult ones right away, knowing that I could. Those hops have to be immediate. Like if you just were off by just a slight millisecond, that run is pretty much gone. We have to take more and more risks as the run goes, boarding turtles that will submerge, as sometimes those are our only options to get crocodile exits pretty much all over the place. So there's 2 more left to go, and time is going to be, of course, when the game says you've completed a full wrap, which is 8 levels in this instance. We're saving the easiest for last too, so it's going to be smooth sailing. Knock on wood, of course. And I got a quick one too. Time is coming up pretty soon. It's going to be a few seconds from now. Very good run for a marathon at least. And it's time. So there you go. That's done. That is a 1 wrap run of Frogger for the Game Boy Color. Pretty fun. And at this point, I kind of just feel like going for a bit of a high score exhibition now that it's all over. Frogger is a pretty fun run, and because it's just slightly different from the original arcade, we get a bright array of colors too. So it doesn't feel like it gets all that boring either. So it's really nice to be in a position like that. And from here on forward, we just have the option to bolster our score as much as possible as we want to, and if we really wanted to combine them together, we could have a high score exhibition too. It is something that we could do, definitely not required, as that I still consider it pretty important to provide time for other runs, but it gives the chance for me to practice the high score aspect of this game too. It's pretty cool because there are slightly different methods to go for a high score. You're starting to think less about how you go through certain areas and more so what things you can collect to get more and more points. As you build up lives, you take slightly less risks while still moving at a moderate speed. It's not quite as swift as one wrap, the first wrap was, but the next few wraps you do start to consider what is fast enough, but while still being able to pick up as many lives as possible. So I'll just kind of run through that. The arcade side of Frogger doesn't get as much of a fair shake nowadays, because it does get to be a little bit repetitive, but if you wanted to see that angle of the game, with a bit more of that in mind, it could have some potential. Who knows? As somebody who grew up with both this game and Frogger 2, the one that does give a bit more speedrunning value as a whole, at least as far as I'm concerned, would most definitely be Frogger 2 for the Game Boy Color, as it goes beyond the usual conventions of the arcade original. I'm still going to submit both of them because they're cool in their own respective ways, and they're fun. I'm going to keep on going for the high score. For those of you who are in the GDQ community, you do not have to watch beyond this unless you want to consider high score exhibition as a category in addition. I'll just keep on going as long as I can. The maximum score that you can hit, and also doubles up as current world record, is 99,990 points. It doesn't go any higher. You can technically get more points, but it doesn't count into the counter anymore. After that point. So from here on forward, it's just kind of picking up points as we go. My current personal best score is around 40, like close to 50,000. I get a little too antsy once you start getting further and further into the high score exhibition. So I like to try to still, go a little bit fast, as it would be a pretty neat category to create called max score. Max score, I've yet to complete like a max score, but it would still be, just a cool prospect. Obviously, it'd be very funny if my, video submission for AGDQ 2025, if I were to do it right here, right there. Because it would be the first time I've ever completed it. And in the case that I do, that'll be a cool little milestone for me. I played Frogger a very long time. I got it back in the year 2000, and I've never gotten higher than 50,000. So that would be pretty dope if I were able to pull it off. As of right now, I'm on a pretty good track to get there. Now, from what I can see, the levels do appear to loop just a little bit, so what you see is what you get. I'll keep her going, nonetheless. In my last run that I did of this game, which was for Glass's Summer Games Saga 2024, I did not make it too much beyond the finishing time for the first wrap completed. So if I keep it going, I may have to start playing this a lot more carefully. Those crocs, they can certainly cause a lot of trouble. I got really good croc RNG in this run, but I was also taking safer routes too. So, the combination of those and just like good laterals and good vertical movements allows for a pretty varied run. Out of all the arcade ports that I played, it may be just biased, but this is my personal favorite out of the bunch. It's the most colorful. Kind of feels like it's a bit of a blend between the beginning of the new era and still harkening back to the era of the 80s when arcade games were in their prime. Okay, just gonna play a touch safe. If you see those little frogs that you see on the logs there, they give you extra points, and that allows you to collect up extra lives. And as of right now, I'm making good track to be my personal best, as long as I keep on, playing it pretty safe. I'm gonna try to see if I can board this next log right here, and we did. There's a lot less space to kind of get what you're looking for, but there is still plenty of room. We're gonna ride this set of turtles all the way to the very end. It seems in the high score, attempts, I start saving the toughest location for last, so that's kind of why, it's taking me longer. I didn't realize I was running low on time. In a speed run, you really don't have to worry about running out of time, because most of the time, you are just going so fast that it doesn't make much of a difference. And that of itself is to benefit if you are able to pick up extra lives. Because a lot can go wrong if you start, losing the plot on where to go for certain areas. Okay, got caught by one of the submerging turtles, that's fine. Let's pick one of the easier ones first, just so I can get some more time on my watch. Time running out is going to be more of a factor when playing through this category. I'm going to see if I can get some good luck, get one of the toughest ones out of the way. Crocodile was not allowing that. A bit humorous, the crocodiles look a lot more like T-Rex heads than they do, crocodiles. So, I'm not sure what that's all about, but hey, look, I'm not going to question it. Ooh, I'm going to question that, though. That felt like I was, safely on. Well, Frogger 2 is pretty infamous for having pretty unusual, choices for landing locations and hitboxes and, where you're safe landing compared to where you're not safe landing. That right there felt really strange. These may be the most, finicky and sensitive of all the landing spots, especially the logs. So I may end up just falling short of my personal best, which is around 47,000. So if I was able to pick up like a clean 48,000, I would be able to finish, and that's not going to happen, unfortunately. We were able to get to close to 45,000. That's pretty solid. And given this was accepted in, I would say that I would be practicing the high score method a lot more too. That in itself could be its own incentive if time allowed. And I'm putting that up as a preposition in case there's some interest in that. Obviously Frogger Arcade, the arcade style of like high score attempts has a different, a different set of methods for conquering each of the levels as you go. And it provides its own unique ways and strategies for, which we, collect up points. And if that seems like it's worth having in a speedrun marathon, I mean, we can place it just right on top of the one-rap speedrun. Regardless of what decisions are made, whether this is accepted, declined, or otherwise, I would like to thank the AGDQ 2025 Games Committee for considering this game in the first place. And as always, have fun and good luck watching through the rest of the submission.